Alrighties. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we maybe move on to the models and things that Phil's got here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So this thing's actually on, or do I do something with it?
You're good.
Okay.
Carry on.
Alrighty. So this isn't about me, it's about my daughter Isabel. So we put an article in one of the magazines a couple of months back about being at the Lego show, and that led to a bit of discussion of maybe we should bring some of them in so you can get an appreciation of where Lego's at. I'll hand over to Isabel. There's sort of three odd things going on here, and we're quite new to the whole Lego thing. But there's standard builds, which are you buy a kit and you build it as per the instructions. There's one in here in particular, which is a modified build, and then there's what people call a mock, which is my own creation, which is a scratch build. And the modified one and the scratch build have got a history behind them, and there's a little video clip that I'll show for each as an intro to them. But I think with that, Isabel, the floor is yours. Tell us about your Lego car journey and addiction.
Not an addiction. Your Toyota's not an addiction? These aren't an addiction. So yeah, that one's a child. So this started because we joined the Lego Club a few years back, and someone brought along one of these to one of the meetings, and I was like, that's pretty cool. So next time I was in the warehouse, $30 later, I had one of my own, and I was like, this is actually really neat. Build it. It was really cool. There's a whole bunch of details in it. I just thought it was in general really neat, and it started from there. I now have a few more. I have more at home. So that's kind of where that started. Where did it go from there? So from there, it pretty much went. I was like, okay, these are really neat, and it'd be neat to display them, but how to do that in a way that's not just sticking them all on a shelf, because it's kind of boring. Sorry, but kind of is. So it's like, okay, how can we do that? So it was like racetrack. And because I apparently don't do things the simple way, I'm like, okay, let's try to get these to move. That was a interesting challenge. I got there in the end. Someone suggested to me that I use magnets. So I have 2 layers. On the bottom, there was a train going around. Magnets on the train, magnets from the car driving around. I have videos, if you don't believe me. At the same time, I've seen some other cars, bigger ones. These ones over here, well, in particular the Mustang. And when I first saw it, I was a bit iffy that someone brought it along to a show. And I was actually like, that's really neat. And it's got some really lovely details in it, and I really enjoyed building it. I got it for Christmas last year, I believe it was. But it's like, it's got a little shifter that clicks through like 3 or 4 different things. The engine's got lots of details. And the instruction book looks really quite lovely. It's got these little facts about the car and like a bit of its history, little fun facts, which are quite delightful. There's also a few different variations you can make on the kit. So it's like, it's got, a, there we go.
Supercharger.
Yeah, and it's like you've got different exhaust options. You can stick those out the side. The front spoiler and a wing, and there's just some little things that's like quite neat. And it's like it's not suspension, but like you can raise and lower the bag, so like and set it up higher, set it down lower. I kind of made it up how I liked. So that was pretty neat. The pickup trucks, not based off any one particular one. It was just what's the classic pickup. So again, the instruction which I have here has a little bit behind the kit and the designers about it, and just really quite lovely. Some awesome little details. Again, it's got a lovely really neat little engine, which again you can see if you have a look. So that was pretty neat. So these are all kits, excluding this one, which is, where did it go? Said it's my own creation, which is based off an actual truck over in the US. This one is based off the Fast and Furious Technic Dodge Charger. Because again, based off the car in the US. But I wanted a 68 charger rather than the 70. So it's like, okay, first I've got to change the panels and get rid of the, change the hood and all that. But it's also got to change the lights. The 70's got a bar, whereas the 68 is the little spotlights, I guess you could call it. So it's like, got to change that. And of course, I don't have to do things by half, so I'm like, okay, let's make this remote control. I was not willing to pay $10 to get instructions. So, several more hours of looking, I eventually found, I believe it was on YouTube, a video which showed me which bits to switch out, how to do it, and what bits. It also linked me to another site which told me which bits I need to get. Dusty. But I got that done, and it's actually pretty fast, especially with new sets of batteries, and for the weight, it's not small, and it's got 2 motors that drive it, one in there you can't really see that steers it, and then battery box, which I stuck in the boot. Gotta hide it. There are a couple of drawbacks, one being it uses the infrared control, so sunlight doesn't really work that well. Out of line of sight doesn't really work that well. You have more than 4 of them. Again, it doesn't really work that well. There's only 4 channels. But most of the time it's pretty good, especially considering Lego has moved to a new system, which is all Bluetooth. So you don't have the same interference problem. Yeah, so wheel standing, dump truck, it's a 1950s-ish,
Ford F-250?
something like that. So
It was a dump truck.
it was a dump truck. It was full length. That I don't actually know which way. So they picked it up secondhand. Had an old, I think they called it a flathead or something in it. And the first thing they did pretty much was, pretty sure they pulled the engine out because they're like, nah, goodbye. But they took a really decent chunk out of the wheelbase. They shortened it right up. So it was pretty much, they had room for an engine behind the cab because they're like, you know what, if we stuck an engine behind this, we could probably get to do wheelies. They made a bet with one of the hosts from one of the other shows that they could, wheelie it. They won the bet. It's really awesome. Clearly has terrible suspension. They fixed that, sort of. They also bent a axle. So that was interesting. But it's really neat to see where it came from and where it ended up. It had a whole saga of not working properly. They couldn't get it to wheelie, and they moved stuff around and did it again and again, and eventually got it. But I was like, okay, so if we're going to do some of the cars from Roadkill, which is the show, what are we going to do? We're going to do General Mayhem because there's already a set that was kind of similar, so let's modify that. I did that, and then it was like, okay, what else? What's one of the large ones known from that show? Stubby Bob, the wheel standing dump truck. There's also one called Blasphemy, which is a 55
Chevy Gasser.
Chevy, which is a drag car. It's a drag week in the US. It's one of the winners, I believe, for its class, which I did build, but I was never that happy with it. But yeah, so this is my own build. It's off that one. It is scaled down to the same size as that, more or less. There's a few little things where it's like, okay, we'll take this out, move this a little bit, make it look more proportional. That's how it goes. But I was pretty happy with how that came out. And Flames was like, makes it look better.
So I'll talk about Ecto in the future.
I also found on YouTube instructions for Canadian bikes from Kira. So that was
Cool.
just a little bit of fun.
And Isabel's got a yay big one she's building. So Christmas present was we bought some plans out of, I think, Portugal. Poland? Somewhere. Something good to be. And it's hardbound, fantastic, and they send you a parts list. And you have to buy all manner of parts. And the trouble is, this build was first done about 15 years ago, and the motorbike has a very large back wheel. And the wheel they used for it only came out in 2 kits that they made 15 years ago. And that back wheel at the moment will cost you $80 for the privilege. So it's all these little joys we're finding, a difficult way where you go, oh, you can buy the instructions because there's no kit. You can, here's the parts list. How hard can it be?
Hard
Yeah, and expensive.
and expensive, yeah.
But it comes with a sticker kit and everything, and it is a very, very professional build. Thanks, Izzy. Okay, I'll talk about a couple of these, and then we'll crack on with other things. So obviously, these are the Speed Champions kit, around about the $35 or so. But then you go up. So
$30.
$30, okay. But then you go up, and this is obviously the Ecto one. Lego's got tie-in with a lot of the movies and things now. So the Ghostbusters reboot that came out in the last year, this was the kit that came with it. Lego's done something like 4 of these over the years, and they've got bigger each time and more detailed. So this is the most recent one. And you can see all the sort of detail, and if you've seen the reboot movie, you can see a number of features that relate to it. The other one is the good old Back to the Future DeLorean. So this is a recent release as well. And in fact, Lego, we pre-ordered this, and it's sold out instantly, and it's been very difficult to get hold of. So we had no appreciation that when we sort of got it, just how kind of rare it is at the moment. And if you have a look at the instructions, they're beautifully presented, as they should be for what the damn things cost, to be fair. But they actually take you on quite a journey when you build it. And if you look at the earlier parts of it, a lot of the internal structure is very colourful, and there's a lot of sort of quite interesting and neat aspects to it that obviously get covered in the final build, but they make it entertaining as you're doing it. And all of these have got various features in them. And so this one, it comes with the parts to be able to make it as all 3 versions from the 3 movies. And it's got this feature whereby, with a mechanism, it'll flip the wheels. And so there's all these little, aspects to them. The hood opens, it's got a hoverboard, there's a hoverboard that comes with it. And there's a thing called a light brick, so there's a little button down below the lightning hook sort of thing, and it lights up the flux capacitor. So, given the price of these things, they've really figured out what, who the audience is, what they're looking for. And it's just, quite neat. So I think that's probably enough from us. I'm happy to field any quick questions.
When you said you converted the charger to remote control, was that Lego stuff that you put in it?
Yeah, so Lego they've now discontinued it, but they had a range where it was their infrared control system.
Yeah.
So you had a Wii remote, you had a receiver, you had a battery control, and you had, I think it was 4 different motors. So you had a servo, which of course does your steering, small motor, medium, large, and extra large.
So you could put that system that they sold into any sort of vehicle.
Yep, you could put it into just about anything, provided you knew how to do it,
Yeah.
and you could, get them in the right place and get them all working together. But mostly plug and play, for lack of a better term.
Once you rebuild it to fit, that's the
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah, but you look long enough and hard enough,
Yeah.
you'll find probably someone who's done it, someone who will offer, pay me $10, I'll show you how, or you keep looking, you find it for free.
Yeah.
You may have to stick the video through translation, but that you can find it. You may not everyone uses Lego genuine parts, but the ones that aren't genuine, there is a Lego substitute if you want to stick to the Lego brand.
Right.
But there is actual ones. Of course, the conversion I found to make the remote control was for the original kit. So it's still, because when the original kit moved it, when you pushed it along the ground, it would, there was an engine which had pistons, it would make those run. But where the motors went, they kind of interrupted that, but they made a way around it, so it's like they would still move, which I thought was a real neat trick, and it was a belt as well. I just thought that was really neat. I kept it. Obviously, different car doesn't have those features, but
What's the build time for the truck?
which one?
The
The red one.
your homemade one.
That was evenings mostly. Took a wee while. Not a huge amount of time, I don't think, but I did have to. I wanted to make it scale, so it's like a bit of math first. Trying to find the original dimensions was hard. I eventually found them on a forum. It was just a couple pictures, not the best quality, but it's like, okay, that looks like a 5, that's a 6. Okay, now, what scales the charger to, because we want to make them match, so it's like, okay, it's about 1/14.
So, having on that dump truck, so how do you know what you need? Because there must be an infinite number of Lego, almost infinite number of Lego bits, of all colours and shapes and persuasions,
Pretty
and you won't have them all in your cupboard.
No. We have a
You might have most of them.
decent sized collection for normal people. But pretty much it comes down to, at least for me when I build my own stuff, what color is it? Okay, let's grab those colors. Okay, what kind of shape is it? Okay, it's mostly rectangle, so we can just build this pretty much going up. Okay, now we've got this, like for the hood or whatever, it's this kind of, what's the word for it?
Curve.
Yeah, it's kind of curved, it comes around and it comes down. Okay, how can we do this? So it's like sometimes you end up building sideways or upside down, or on all sorts of angles to do it. But really, it's what color is it, and what is the end game? What's the shape? What bits do you have that could make this work? How could you do that?
So somewhere in your cupboard, you've got a great pile of brown bricks.
Not
anymore. Not anymore.
Has a great pile of brown bricks.
That have got compound curves on them for the hood
Yeah.
and
So
doors and other.
That's called a finisher.
Yeah. So Isabel, she didn't take a lot long. She spent quite a lot of time on it, and this thing is, I guess, it's get to that sculpting kind of side of things, where like the grill. If you look at the truck it's trying to replicate, the number of bars are completely different.
This
But because of
five.
the scale and all the rest of it, so it's getting that essence and that feel for it. We had most of the bricks because we've got a slightly getting out of control, but compared to most of the club members, we're just in the shallow end of the pool. But one of the things we did buy for it was the wheels, because it came down to when you did a wheel that size, we didn't have anything like it, and again, as long as you're willing to pay, you can find
Just
all
about
manner of
everything.
stuff from old kits, and those wheels felt about right sort of size for the scale, and I think they were like $20 for 6 of them. Okay, what the hell, cheaper than 80 for one.
I don't have the best time management, as I'm sure family is willing to testify to. But in the case of the dump truck there, it was getting towards the end, and I was like, okay, time's getting a bit simple. I still have to build an engine. Dad, come help me. So that was, I think it was a bit upon an afternoon or something, probably like the weekend before the show, knowing me. So we helped build that, and particularly like the scoop and the bit on top. And it's like, okay, how to, attach it. I think at one point I had it attached by chains. Don't anymore, slightly more secure, marginally. But yeah, one bit that was definitely interesting was figuring out how to get the, texture kind of right. It's that it's real patina. Sorry, it's rusty, and there's if you had looked on the back of the cab, there's some paint left, which is the red. But it's like, okay, how do we kind of mottle this into just straight up rust? And it's, I think I did a good job, and it's like as people commented, they're like, you did the the texture kind of thing really well. And it's like there was one guy he's kind of into his building little cars as well. He was like, you did a good job, you know, getting the pretty much the essence of what kind of truck this was originally, which was like, oh yay, I did that well. But yeah, that was definitely a bit hard. There's not much detail inside the cab, which was, I ran out of time pretty much, but you keep the doors shut, nobody notices.
So don't feel bad about time management or not having the inside done properly. That's pretty well the story of every car in this club.
So I think we'll probably call it quits there. Obviously, feel free to come and have a look, and a lot of them, to the bigger ones, you've got things you can open and look into. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you as well.
Cool.
Thank you.